Deep beneath the streets of Tel Aviv, behind reinforced concrete, sealed blast doors, and layers of military secrecy, Israel's war against Iran was not born in a moment. It was built, planned, engineered for months inside the underground command bunker at the Kirya, Israel's equivalent of the Pentagon. Officers of the Israel Defense Forces General Staff, Operations Directorate, were quietly preparing for something far bigger than a single strike. A war. And not just one front. Two, Iran and Hezbollah in Lebanon. According to officers speaking from inside that bunker, the planning began almost immediately after the previous round of fighting ended. Because while Iran had been hurt, it had not been stopped. Tehran was rebuilding its ballistic missile arsenal, advancing its nuclear program, strengthening the regional network of militias that Israel calls Iran's proxy army. And Israeli planners believed the next confrontation would be larger. Much larger. Inside the bunker, officers say they were living double lives. By day, they worked on classified war plans, mapping strikes, anticipating retaliation, gaming out escalation across the Middle East. But when they went home, they said nothing. Not to friends, not to family. One officer described the strain of returning home every night, carrying knowledge that could reshape the region, while pretending everything was normal. A lieutenant colonel, who heads a control branch inside the Operations Directorate, says her team oversees both offensive and defensive operations across every theater, from Iran to Lebanon, to Syria, to Yemen. Inside the command center, screens stream real-time intelligence and battlefield updates, feeding Israel's military leadership and political leadership with the operational picture. But secrecy was absolute. Rumors constantly circulate in Israel, stories of insiders in the bunker whispering about what's coming next. She says those rumors are fiction. According to her, even many officers involved in the planning did not know the exact timing of the strike until the very last moment. Because if the secret leaked, the entire campaign could collapse. And this was not just a military calculation. For her, it was also personal. She's just 33 years old. In a few weeks, she's supposed to get married. She and her partner, a commander in Israel's elite paratroopers brigade, set their wedding date a year ago. They knew this year would be intense. Gaza, Syria, Lebanon, Iran, but few could have predicted just how volatile the region would become. Another officer inside the bunker says Israel's war planning now runs on two parallel tracks: long-term preparation in periods of relative calm, and rapid operational planning once a campaign begins. Even in the middle of fighting, he says, much of the work inside the bunker is about tomorrow's war, preparing the next day's targets, the next wave of strikes, the next escalation. Because Israeli planners believe any conflict with Iran will never stay limited. It will spread to Hezbollah in Lebanon, potentially to Houthi forces in Yemen, and across a wider network of militias aligned with Tehran. For Israel, Iran is not just a distant adversary. It is the central coordinator of a regional confrontation. And that means every arena must be ready. Another officer, a reserve captain suddenly called back into service, describes the intensity of life inside the bunker. He says he recently sat in on a high-level target approval meeting where senior commanders reviewed strike objectives one by one. The scale of the targets, he says, was staggering, each one tied to a single goal: removing threats to Israeli civilians. Inside the bunker, the tempo is relentless. Strikes, assessments, new targets, more strikes, around the clock. And yet, outside the bunker, life continues. At home, the captain says his family only knows one thing about his work, that it somehow involves explosions, and that quiet support from the home front, he says, is what keeps the officers inside the bunker going, because the war they prepared for was never just about strategy. It was about living with the knowledge that when the moment finally came, the entire region could ignite